Hey, we have some responses coming in. Do let us know your name and where you're joining us from. We would love to know more about our audiences. Okay, great. We are also live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So welcome to everyone who are viewing us on our socials. It is great to have all of you here. Uh, Hi Samson, you're joining us from Nigeria. Hi Zenith from Nepal. Hi Vaishnavi from Pune. Hi Javier from Great. Wow. Okay. We have a diverse set of audiences here. Amazing. It's amazing to have such a lively bunch of people here. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Ananya. I would be hosting this session on behalf of Simplilearn. We have planned a super informative session with a amazing guest, so please stay tuned. Before we begin, we have some ground rules for the session that we request everyone to follow. Number one, please drop any questions you have in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. We keep getting a lot of messages in the chat box, so we might end up missing yours. So please use the Q&A box effectively. We will try to answer all your questions during or at the end of the session. If you've already posted a question, please do wait for us to pick it up in order and answer the question. Please don't keep posting the same question again and again. Secondly, avoid sharing any external link or personal details on the chat box and keep conversations relevant to the topic only. And finally, for those of you who participate in the session till the end and give us your full name in the poll that we'll be launching at the end of the webinar, we will provide an attendance certificate that you can share on your social media, add to your resume, and even update on LinkedIn. So great. Just curious to know before we begin, has anyone attended a Simplilearn webinar before, or is it your first time? Please let us know in the chat. We're very eager to know if there are more first timers here or more experienced webinar attendees here. Okay. A lot of you are saying that this is your first time. Someone is here for the fifth time. Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for attending more and more of our sessions. Right. Someone has attended our last webinar, second time, first time. Okay. Okay, a lot of you here are here for the first time. So let me quickly take a moment to brief you about what Simplilearn is and what we do. We provide certifications in career-aligned learning paths in various categories like software development, data science, project management, Agile and Scrum, um, GenAI, business analytics, and a lot more. We have helped 8 million, more than 8 million people in their career growth across 150 plus countries with more than 50 participants. And uh, yeah, speaking of partnerships, you can see the array of our esteemed partners here. The programs that we develop and provide are in association with prestigious institutions like IITM Pravartak, Michigan Engineering Professional Education, UCSD Extended Studies, and leading organizations as well, such as Microsoft, Google, and IBM. But what we're really proud of having achieved is how our programs have impacted our learners. We have a more than 80% graduation rate, with learners rating our programs 4.8 on 5 and reporting a 50% salary hike. This shows the kind of learning experience and dedicated guidance we've been able to provide to millions. Right. So I see a comment about how if someone has not gotten a certificate. We're sorry to hear that. Please do drop a mail on webinars@simplilearn.net. I will personally ensure that your certificate for the webinar that you attended is received. And yes, so if you if you can stay till the end and enter your full name in the poll that we'll be launching at the end of the webinar, we will be able to generate the certificate and share with you. Unfortunately, we will not be able to take any manual entries for the certificate or request for the certificate. So please do keep that in mind. Yes. Okay. before we get to the most exciting part of introducing our speaker, we would like to understand from you all which GenAI tool have you already tried in your development workflow. Please let us know your answer in the chat box. Um, is it like GitHub Copilot or code assistants, B, ChatGPT or other LLMs, C, some AI testing tools like Cypress, or D, you've not used much of AI or GenAI tools. Okay, some of you are saying ChatGPT. Yes, who doesn't use ChatGPT these days, right? Yeah, some of you are seeing A, some of you are saying D as well. Okay, it's a mix bunch of answers. Um, okay, Copilot also has some takers here. Right. Okay. So, most of you, some of you might not have used any GenAI for development workflow, which is, or some of you might be using like, one or two tools here and there, which is exactly why we have this topic and we have this webinar planned. Even wherever you are in terms of GenAI usage, we aim to give you a very comprehensive understanding of how you can apply GenAI tools for maximum output in all parts of your work, which includes coding, testing, and deploying. So by the end of this 1 hour, you will understand how GenAI has been changing the developer's role, what an essential AI toolkit contains, how you can prompt better and code faster with GenAI, as well as how GenAI can assist in test generation, bug detection, and deployment support. We will also be deep diving into our AI powered full stack developer program in collaboration with Microsoft and discuss how it will aid your learning and career path. Also, we have a surprise segment as well, which we're going to in which we are going to demo something super cool. So please do stay tuned for that. And yes, so that brings me to the most exciting part of the webinar, welcoming our guest speaker, our guide for today, the very talented Deepesh Acharya. Deepesh is a software engineer at Microsoft currently, and he has previously worked with Cisco and Oracle. He's an expert in backend engineering, API design, GenAI powered CI/CD pipelines, and productivity frameworks. He's going to bring his experience of working with top tier tech firms, as well as his deep technical insights to this webinar. So Deepesh, I'm very, very glad to welcome you and host you today. It'll be great if you can add on to that introduction and say your hi to all our participants.
Right. Hi everyone, I'm really happy to be here and host this webinar and get to talk to you about this exciting world of AI and how it has changed our developer outlook in the current scenario. Like we'll spend another hour or so about this topic. So hope to have an engaging conversation. So a little bit about myself that I have around 6 years of experience. I joined my first company, Oracle, where I used to work. So I'll give you a very basic background, right? Right. So when I joined Oracle, we did not used to use AI at all. Like there was nothing called AI at that time. There used to be people used to use it, but we did not used to do it. No one in our team used to do it. But now it has changed so much that everyone in our team or even in Microsoft, everyone is using that. And it's basically, pushed to everyone is pushed to use it. They are incentivized to use AI because you get that productivity boost. So we'll cover more about that, but that's just a very basic glimpse you can see, right? In 6 years, things have changed from 0 to 100 kind of thing.
Yes. Thank you, Deepesh. I think that sets the context for the first segment of the webinar very, very perfectly. We're going to talk about the shifting developer role in the age of AI. Just like you mentioned, like, from a few years ago till now, there's been a lot of change in how teams function. It's a known fact to everyone here that AI has changed a lot about the way we work, whether we're in the tech space or not. How we approach the work, the time and effort that we put in, everything has changed. But specific to the software development industry, specific to that area, what are some shifting trends that you've been observing, and what does this shift really tell us about, what the future holds?
Yeah, so earlier when we used code, we used to focus. So if you look at a developer's day-to-day activity, right, it used to be 10% of planning, 90% of coding. So when you are a junior developer or a mid-level developer, the expectation from you was that the planning will be done and the designing will be done by the senior folks, and the expectation from the junior and mid-level folks was that you will be spending most of your time on coding. But now that has shifted a lot. Now the expectations have also changed from a developer. The now the expectation is not that you will be doing coding, because now coding assistants and many toolkits which are available like GitHub Copilot, Cloud Code, like, and I think most of us or some of the people in this webinar have already used it, might know that it is very good at what it codes. And the level of accuracy or the level of uh, quality of code that it generates depends on what context you provide. And in order to provide a good context, you should have a good context about the product and how it is going to impact your customers. So now the expectation from a developer is that you should be able to design stuff, you should be able to architect it, and you should be able to relate to the real life customer problems. So, for example, when you are set to develop something, earlier it used to be, okay, I'll develop it. You do not have to think much about it. But now you have to think about, okay, why am I developing something? Why something is needed? So that, you can provide a much better context to the AI so that it can, generate proper, accurate code, which actually works. So I feel the shift has been from at least from a developer perspective, it has been more from a coding to, designing and architecting, which was earlier expected at a very high level of experience level. But now that is expected from even from a beginner or a mid-level engineer.
Right. And like also from what I can understand, AI is applied throughout the development life cycle, right? So while
Definitely.
navigating this shift, what are some essential GenAI tools that developers should ace, or at least like know how to work with? What is like an essential toolkit that you use and you recommend?
So specifically in Microsoft, we use Claude Code and GitHub Copilot a lot. I mean that a lot. So GitHub Copilot and your Claude Code are best when you want IDE integrated coding. That is what we do, right? We have an IDE, we have our big code bases. We want to make some changes in it. We provide a very good context to the that coding assistant, and it does the job. Now, this next step comes for the testing, right? So you cannot rely on only one toolkit that, okay, only have one particular LM model and I will rely on it to perform exceptional in every scenario. That is never going to happen. Each model has a different set of context that it has. Each set of model has its own pros and cons. So you have to decide which one you want to use in which phase of your development. So for example, if you're developing a code, you might be using GitHub Copilot or Claude Code with a certain model, right? So for example, if you use Claude and you're using Opus or Sonnet, then that provides you a very good level of coding excellence. But that might not be the case for the testing, or if you're wanting to write some documentation, it might not perform at that level. So you might shift to GPT or some other models which are available. So selecting the right model and right toolkit is very important in for each stage of the you know testing or development. So
Right.
there are
Okay,
multiple
that is
tools.
a yes.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
And I specifically feel the GitHub Copilot and Claude is something that people should experiment with. They are very good. I mean, they perform exceptionally well. And I feel that GitHub Copilot is also there in the program that is going to be presented by Simplilearn. So I think that can provide a very good value addition. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Deepesh. So I think that's a pretty handy toolkit that you have just explained. So when it comes to actually applying these tools, how do they how do they all come together? Like how do they exactly fit into the dev stack or the workflow?
So the first part of your let's say if you are given some functionality that you have to develop, the first thing is that you should be able to write code for it, right? So first part will be that you will have your IDE integrated Copilot assistant to generate the code that you have. Now the second thing will be you can write UTs for it. So what UTs basically mean is that you are unit testing your code. You are making sure that your code is not buggy. Because I'll be very honest, right? Of everything that an AI generates is basically all based on what context you provide, right? And even if you have provided flawless context, it doesn't really mean that it is going to generate with 100% accuracy. So you have to test it. You have to make sure that it is actually correct. That is where the human element comes into picture, right? If it could have done everything on its own, then why would we be required? So that is where our human element comes into picture. We are manually seeing what it has done. We are understanding what it has done. Then we are locally testing it, right? And then you have your version controls, GitHub, and everything. Now the level of automation has increased in such a manner that earlier, when you used to think of AI, what used to come into your mind was that AI is just basically like a glorified Google, right? You used to think, okay, it's just nothing but a Google search, right? But now that is not the case. It has evolved tremendously in such a short span of time. Now it's not just a Google. It can connect with stuff. It can, even connect with your GitHub. It can raise PRs for you. It can, get code reviews done. It can, even run test cases internally. So if you ask the Claude code, hey, you have written this code. I understand that. Now just write UTs for it and run it. It will do that. It can even, access PowerShells and everything. So that is the, very good level of integration that it has provided, which has, in like fully completed the pipeline of the software development. So now you are able to write the code, you're able to test it, you're able to deploy it. And if you wanted to monitor it, then you can create monitoring agents, which are basically just going to look into your logs and see if something is breaking, then generate alerts. All these things you can do. And but the thing is that you have to select the right model and the right toolkit for it, because you cannot expect everything to be done by one toolkit. So if I say today that I'll just learn Claude Code, I'll not focus on anything else, then I will not be able to apply it everywhere with the same level of efficiency. So that is why you need some, different bows in your quiver. That's the same logic. You cannot use one bow and one arrow and expect that it will pierce everything. So that's the same logic which applies here.
Perfect. And it's really great to know about how the different Gen AI tools can come together as a workflow. So in this segment, why don't we break it down and discuss about coding with Gen AI a bit more in detail, and coding faster with Gen AI in specific. Deepesh, it'll be great if you can take us through some a few examples of how a good prompt is, and how a good prompt shouldn't what a good prompt should be and shouldn't be. It'll be great if you can show us a few real world comparisons of how you prompt Gen AI tools to code for you, and what are some do's and don'ts.
Sure. So I'll just quickly put it in a very simple way, right? Treat that Gen AI or the LLM or whatever agent you have as a junior developer. So if you were a junior developer and you were asked to do some task and you were given a very little context about it. So if I came to you and said, ki, write a program which, does tic-tac-toe or something, some random thing it does. But I'm not giving you proper context about it. I'm not saying ki in which language you have to write, in which repository you have to write, or what are some of the key instructions that you should keep in mind. Then what will happen is you will get frustrated. You will scratch your head and you will just do some random thing that comes into your mind, and it might not meet my expectation. So that is the same thing which happens with a agent also or AI also. It is like a junior developer which can code for you, but in order to code efficiently, it requires that level of context. That is where you come into picture, right? So when you give a very vague prompt, then the level of accuracy or whatever it generates can be garbage. It can be highly unusable, and it can hallucinate a lot, because that is one problem with AI. First problem is that it is undeterministic. Like you cannot expect the same prompt to give the same answer every time. But if it's a garbage prompt, then in 100% case, it is just going to give a very hallucinated result, which may not be usable. And it is not usable in most cases, what I have seen. So what happens is that you should provide a very strong prompt. What strong prompt means that you're providing proper context to it. So for example, if you're working on a repository and you have certain set of restrictions that you cannot that you have to adhere to, that certain authentications or authorization guidelines that you have, then you have to specify it. And if you have some references, that is great. So for example, if you are performing task one, which is somewhat related to task two, which is already done, then you can say, hey, you can refer task 2, which was already done, so that it basically goes and reads and understands what was done there and how it can utilize the same thing here. So these kind of things matter a lot. Providing proper context where we are providing proper languages, what they have to use, if there are certain errors that it needs to handle, if there are certain exceptions that it needs to handle, if there are some referenced tasks that it can read into and perform better, all these things if we provide, then in that case, whatever output it is going to generate, that will be flawless. It can here and there have some inaccuracies, but think it like this: if you're providing a very weak prompt, it will generate 100 mistakes and you'll have to fix 100 mistakes. If you give a very good prompt, it will generate 10 mistakes, you'll just have to fix 10 mistakes. So which one do you prefer, right? You would prefer the one where you have to do less work. That is where strong prompting and prompt engineering comes into picture. So yeah, I think there are some other
Yes.
examples also we can take into consideration. So like in this, we can see, right? We were saying if we just said, "Ki build me a login form and React," then there are so many gray areas here that AI doesn't know what it has to take actions on. It really doesn't know which API it has to hit. It doesn't know what are some of the validations that you already are performing in some other areas of your project, right? You have not mentioned any kind of library that has to be used. While if you look at the strong prompt, we have provided as much context as we could have given. And think of it like this: if this particular task was given to you, you would have to take too many actions, right, on your own. You would also hallucinate. But with the stronger prompt, you do not have to use your own mind a lot. It's like a senior developer has given you exact requirements that they want you to do. So you know what you have to do properly. So you do not hallucinate much. You just do it. And that too with a good accuracy. Yeah. Yeah. So similar things we can see in other prompts also, right? And one more thing that I have personally noticed, right? It is very good practice to ask whatever. So, for example, if I am saying that, hey, AI, generate some feature for me, and I have provided proper context for it, then it is a very good practice to ask it to, generate a plan first. So, what that planning means is that before writing any code or before changing anything, it is just going to come back to you and ask, hey, this is the plan that I'm trying to follow. Do you think this is correct or not? So, it's like a junior developer is coming to you for first getting it approved. Do you think what I am planning to make the change is correct or not? So if there are any mistakes or if there are any hallucinations that the AI has done or some incorrect decisions that it has taken, you can correct it then and there rather than making it code and then getting it resolved, right? So if you have a very big feature or very big ask, then it is uh, well, it's very good and it's advised to, ask it to generate a prompt for it. Oh, sorry, plan for it, and then follow that plan so that it can, checklist. Okay, so for example, it's a very big task. What it will do is it will break it into 10 segments and it will do check, 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 check. Okay. Now what happens is, for example, let's say since it is a big task, now that that since it's AI is nothing but a software, it can have some problems. It can, sometimes because of the network connection or anything, it can break. So if it broke in between, then for the next time, what you can say is, hey, you had done 5 tasks out of 10. Just continue from the last one, so that it can, pick up from where it left. That way, you are not doing the rework, and AI is also not confused. Hey, I was trying to put function X, but function X is already there, so it will, duplicate it. That kind of hallucinations will never happen.
Deepesh, these are amazing tips for, I think it's applicable universally for everyone who's working with AI. Even I have taken a couple of notes, so thank you for that. So what are some areas of your work where you see Gen AI saving the most time and like boosting productivity? Take us through the front end and back end scenarios, maybe so that everyone here can ensure that they are also putting Gen AI tools to the maximum use.
So yeah, so for me, I specifically use AI in order to do the tasks that I do not want to do, right? Or some tasks which are very repetitive, or it's like copying and pasting of code, or it's writing the same code again and again, or same type of code again and again. So I don't want to do that. I want to design stuff and ask it to do it, so that it's like delegating your task that you do not want to do. So some examples for it is like when you're generating any new API or you're writing any new flow, then those APIs are almost similar, right? There's a very small difference here and there in the request and response and all those things. So what you can do is you can just give it a reference to task T1 that is already completed and ask it to just follow that and generate a similar thing here also. So it's like a redundant task because task T1 was already done. I had already done it. So I do not want to copy it and make some minor changes, renaming of functions and all those things. I do not want to do that. So that is where AI comes into picture. It's like you can offload all the tasks that you do not want to do to it. And the same thing applies in front end as well. You can, use it for CSS refactorings. You can, create reusable components out of it. So one thing to note is that when you ask AI to do something, it is going to do it, right? But the thing is that it might generate a lot of duplicate code. So that is where your human element again kicks into picture. You see, okay, it has done something which is already there. So you can, just select that part and say, hey, this was already there. Why don't you just reuse it and make the other function, if that is not directly usable, make it reusable, make it somewhat generic, so that you can use it in multiple places. So these kind of things, when you are not focused too much on the code part, then you can focus on the higher level of stuff. You can look into the code quality. You can use code cleanup. You can go for system design. All these things then you can do. So that is where it saves most of the time, I feel.
Great, perfect. Thank you, Deepesh. We have some very interesting questions coming in from our audiences as well. So please do stay tuned, everyone. We will be answering your questions towards the end of the session. We have a live Q&A segment as well planned, so please do stay tuned. Great. So, with the number of tools that we have at our disposal today, I think it's very important also to understand where exactly, effectively to use them. So, that's why I think this last segment has been very, very insightful. Thank you so much for that. In the next segment, we will discuss how testing, debugging, and deploying works with AI and GenAI assistants. So, Deepesh, what are these, different kinds of tests that AI can assist a developer with? And my second question, like while um, using GenAI for test generation, like what are some pointers to keep in mind generally?
Yeah, so generally when you're, generating test cases, so first thing is that we as a human or as a developer do not like to write, I think most of the developers do not like to write a lot of test cases. So when you look at any code base, I've been in many companies, and what I've seen is people have a lot of functionality, but most of it is not tested. That most of it is not unit tested. So what happens is people like to write code and make it work in production, but they do not like to, write UTs, because that is the most boring part. But with the AI, with so it's again the same example has come into picture, right? Same thing that I said, that when you have that AI available to you, what you do is you basically push all the tasks that you do not want to do to, so that it can do it. The same thing happens here also. Now, what happens is with the help of AI, you are easily able to write all the UTs. For example, you have written, let's say, 100 lines of code, and you want AI to, you can just say, ki, hey, test this function end to end. Every corner case should be covered. While if we as a developer or as a human were doing that, then we will feel, oh, it's very boring. I have to test each and every flow. So you might miss some flows. It's not because you are, you are less efficient than AI. It's more because you do not want to do that. That is where AI comes into picture, right? If you ask AI to do it, it will generate hundreds of test cases for the same lines of code. But one thing to keep in mind is that it can generate a lot of duplicate test cases. So that is where you have to put a stop to it. You have to, be a little strict with AI. See, you have to test this particular class, but make sure do not generate duplicate tests to test the same scenario again and again. Otherwise, what happens is you're just bloating your UTs. and the same UTs have to be run in a pipeline somewhere, right? So it is going to increase the time that it runs. So you should make sure that it is not generating garbage test cases. For that, that is where your prompting comes into picture, right? That is where prompt engineering comes into picture. So that is the future also. Prompt engineering is one of the biggest things which is going to take off, right? We when we see prompts, we see ki, it's just plain English. It's nothing to be, nothing to learn about it. But that is not the case. Prompt engineering is not just about English. It's about providing the right context. And in order to provide right context, you should have the right context. So that is where our jobs come to picture, right? And even for integration test or any kind of regression testing that we do, the providing the best context. So for example, in integration test, what might happen is you might have multiple components that might be working together. So you have to provide a very, you know, uh, context rich prompt, which will provide all the information that how it has to, mock one of the components or how it has to make the whole flow work. All those things you have to provide. And again, the same thing applies here also. You have to make sure that it doesn't generate duplicate test cases so that but because with duplicate test cases, you might see that, yes, I have 100 test cases, but how many of them are distinct? It should not be like out of 100, only 10 are distinct and 90 are just duplicates. So that is where you have to, uh, do prompt engineering and put your human element, review it properly. That is where it comes.
Perfect. And what is the role exactly that AI plays when it comes to debugging and performance of the software? I see some interesting stats as well as to how much time AI saves when it comes to doing something like correlating symptoms to causes. So what's your whole take on this?
I think it saves a lot of time in terms of debugging. So think of it like this. So if you see some error and if you had to do it the old way, just, Google it, look into docs and all those things, then it would have taken at least an hour or more than that, right? But with the help of AI, you just have to provide it the that particular error that you are seeing, and it is on behalf of you going to look into documents, going to look into other sources. Even AI is now, corporate AI especially, is that smart that it is going to look into your team's chat channels and all those things, those integrations to see that whether this kind of error was discussed previously or not. Even Outlook mails, it is going to check, hey, was this kind of error seen anywhere in, has anyone sent that kind of error to anyone else in the mails that you have access to, right? So you are basically saving a lot of time there. And if you have let's say 100 lines of logs, right? And you have to read each line, then it is going to take time because you as a human will go through it one by one, one by one, one by one. That is not the case for AI. You're just going to say that, hey, this is the error that I'm seeing. Can you fix it? Or can you tell me what is the exact root cause of it? So it is just going to, look into the code and it is going to look into the error and it is going to correlate with the document. So it's, juggling so many parts that it, it is bound to get the answer somewhere or the other, right? Which you cannot juggle at the same time. We as a human cannot say ki, hey, I will look in the doc with one hand, I will look into the code base with another hand. I only have two hands. After that, I'm spent, right? But that is not the case with AI. It can look into the docs, it can look into the Teams chat, it can look into the Outlook, it can look into your code base, it can do whatever integrations it has, it will try to find the answer for you. So that is where, it saves a lot of time for you.
Great. And the final stage that we're going to talk about is deployment. So, how do you see GenAI changing the deployment process, whether it is like before, during, or after? Is there any interesting use case from your team or like Microsoft you'd like to share with our audiences?
Yeah, sure. So I feel during deployment, a lot of things what happens is the same debugging related issues, right? When deployment fails, you do not know what has happened. So that is where the AI again comes into picture. It helps you resolve those debugging related issues. And let's say if deployment got completed and there were some errors which start happening, then so whenever any big software or any large scale system goes down or faces any issue, it's a very problematic thing for the developers and for the team which owns it, right? So they want that issue to be resolved as quickly as possible. So that is where AI comes into picture, right? You can have agents which are going to, when even before you get to know about that problem, that agent will get to know that yes, something has broken. Based on whatever logs that you are emitting, it is going to check yes, something has broken. I will, even before you get to know, you will have the solution in hand. So it's like by the time I get to know that yes, there was a bug in my problem in my software, AI would have already analyzed it and told me that, hey, this was the bug. You just have to fix it. In order to fix it, you can do this. So you can understand, right? How much time it has saved for us. If it was just human that was doing the job, then in that case, you would have spent 1 hour or 2 hour in order to, first you'll have to get notified about the problem. Otherwise, you'll not know about the problem because no one is monitoring the log 24/7, right? So after that, you have to spend 1 or 2 hours in order to debug it and then solve it. But with this, what has happened is even before someone else knew that there was a problem in the system, AI knew it. It uh, analyzed it and it gave some of the solutions. Now you have a working set of solution in front of you before someone woke up and told you that hey, there is a problem in this in your flow, right? So it saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of man hours. Productivity increases because of all these things because you are not frustrated now because you have to do things on time crunch, right? So all these things I think help a lot during deployment and after deployment.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Deepesh. I think, as promised, we are at a very interesting demo segment now. Deepesh is going to give us a live glimpse into something he does as part of his work. So, without further ado, let's dive into it. Deepesh, the stage is all yours.
Sure,
You can share the screen now.
sure. I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Great. So uh, we are not going to pick any big scenario. It's a very basic scenario that we are going to pick, right? Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So what we are going to do is we are going to ask Copilot. Okay. And here, if you can see, right, this is Visual Studio Code, and I've just created an empty folder. It's an empty repository, right? It's not, it contains nothing. And you can see that in Copilot, you have so many options to select what kind of model you want to select. So mine is a free version, so I do not have fancy models like Opus and all those things. But you can get some of the free models and you can use it to explore how AI works. So what we are going to do is we are just going to give it a simple prompt, right? We are going to ask it to generate a fully functioning tic-tac-toe, right? What do you think? Is this a good prompt to give? Do you think this is a good prompt that AI will be able to solve, or it will start hallucinating, or is it a good practice to give this kind of prompt? Input yes, no, 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 right? That is right, because this is very generic. You have not provided any information on top of that. So now we'll just slightly improve it. We are going to say that you have to generate a web application. Okay. And on top of that, we are going to provide more context. Now we are going to provide context in terms of functionality. I'm not specifying which kind of framework or technology that it has to use. I'm doing that on purpose, right? So because I do not have any requirement because this is an empty project, so I'm just saying, ki, okay, you take your best guess, right? Now what I'm going to say is, I'm going to provide it more context on what kind of tic-tac-toe it has to generate, right? So I'm going to say, there should be a support for two-player mode and players able to provide their so make sure that the products that you expect. Okay. Now what we have done is we have provided it some of the functionalities that we wanted, right? that it should have two-player mode. It should be able to take players' names, right? And like I said, that having a UTs, having it generate UTs while it is generating the code is very helpful, because what happens is when it generates UT, it tries to run it. By default, it will try to run it, right? And when it runs, if your application has some syntax errors or some issues, then it will catch it and fix your code as well. So it's basically doing two things: making sure that your code coverage is high and your code is properly tested, and also at the same time making sure that yes, your code is actually correct. So let's see what it does. It's creating an instruction file. So you can see it is thinking and it shows what it is thinking. So if you click on it, you can see like that it is planning the project structure. I need to manual scaffold the project type, right? It is doing all these things. Then it will start asking you, okay, can I edit? I'm just going to say for this, allow in this session. And we should be very careful about what we are allowing. So when you are allowing something, you should first read what it is trying to access, so that it doesn't access some incorrect data or terminal or run such command that it deletes everything. So that also we should take care. See, it has generated game.js, UI.js. It has started using JavaScript, right? It will be creating some HTML files as well. Currently, it has not generated any tests. We can see the test folder is empty. It will do that. It started generating test cases. So it generated one for game, this particular file. Since this was a very small project or small demo, right? So I have not asked it to, generate a plan, because this is a very small task. It's not going to cause any problems. So I do not want to bloat my repository with an instructions file or a plan file that I'll have to delete later only. So see, it is asking for, at each step, it is going to ask you that, do you allow me to perform a particular task or not? So I'm just going to say allow in this session, because it is going to try npm install quite sometimes. That is why I allowed it in this particular session. Now it's running the test cases. See, once it is able to properly run test cases, then only it will say ki, yes, my code is complete. If we had not asked it to generate test cases, then what it would have done is it would have just generated the source file and all the things which are required. Once again, let me bring it. It has run it also. Once again. Mm, mm, see what, mhm, something is not happening. It's broken. We'll have to ask it. We'll have to, ask it to fix it. Okay. Now if you see, when you're trying to run this, you are getting the option, getting the option to, do this, but nothing is getting checked. So you'll have to provide a proper context. Key, the ties are not getting clicked. The, the, if you look at it, it had provided a lot of details, right? Key, you can do npm install, you can do npm test, right? Then you can do, in order to start a web application, you can do this, and it provided us this, and it automatically opened it for us. Now we have said to it that, see, you have generated this, but these styles are not clickable. So can you, okay, fixed it. So now why it suddenly started working is because of the npm's feature. So now what happens is, it's because it made change in this JS file, it automatically got reloaded. It has not rerun npm start, but it automatically got reloaded. So here you can see, right? I can do this, something like this. See, player one wins because X diagonally it got formed. So things like this you can do with the help of AI. So this is a very, very, very small example, right? It's a very small feature that you can build. You can add on top of things, right? You can add, uh, you can ask it to say, ki, okay, now since you have generated, great, it is working now, but now I want to add one more feature on top of that. And what is that feature? I want to track scores. I want to track a session, like for in one session, let's say if two players have played 10 games, then how many player one has won and how many player two has won. Things like this you can ask it, and it will generate on top of that. And it's like the pair programming, right? You are sitting with a fellow developer, you're giving him requirements, because requirements do change on the fly. So you're giving them new requirements and you're asking them, ki, hey, this has changed, this is not working, can you fix that? It will work on that. It will get back to you. And then you can, use it and you can test it. And testing is something that I feel it is good to have a human intervention in that, because you should never rely completely on AI for all the test cases. It is always better to battle test your software once manually, then ship that feature. Otherwise, what happens is, if you rely on just the code part of the testing and something is not working, then you cannot say, right, that I had unit tested, I had integration tested, everything, but still this scenario, even if it's a corner scenario, then that is okay. Okay, you missed it. But if it is something very basic, like in this case, if I had just said ki, yes, see, even before when it generated test cases, it was able to run all the test cases, right? It said, hey, you can use npm test in order to run all the test cases, and it said all 8 test cases pass, right? But we saw that it was not working. So that is where your human intuition comes into picture, right? That you tested and you gave it exactly what was not working, right? I said that the tiles are not getting clicked. So that is again providing a proper context in a conversational manner, right? So I think this gives a very good picture on how you can use AI as your fellow pair developer, right? It's like a junior developer that is always there to assist you, and in cases of documentations, it's like a senior developer that is always ready to impart wisdom. So it can play both roles. It can play the role of a junior developer as well as a senior developer. It depends on how you want to use it. So I think that is all for this demo.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Deepesh. I think it was very wisely put as well. Like, AI can be what you want it to be, right? It will assume the role of, what you want it to be. And I think that's pretty well established. Thank you for this demo as well. It was very interesting to see, it was sort of like behind the scenes glimpse of, how a feature is built. So it was great. Allow me a quick moment. I am gonna share my screen again. Okay, yes, my screen is visible now. Okay, so we will, with that, move on to the next segment, which is, how to become a full stack developer. Because, I think one of the skills, one of the expectations that employers have, organizations have from developers these days is to, of course, be AI powered, but also have, like, a full stack knowledge. So, Deepesh, what do you recommend for someone starting out, like, or looking to transition or grow more in their career? Do you have any advice?
So first thing that I would definitely recommend is first you understand the basics of things, right? So for example, if you're working on a specific task name, sorry, a specific stack, then you should be aware of the stack. So if I'm just completely relying on AI to do everything for me, and I do not have any understanding of how Java works, or so for example, if my project is in Java, or I do not have any understanding on how Java code looks, then it's very dangerous because you are completely blind and you are just relying on that driver which is there, and you, if something happens to driver, you are broke. You do not even know how to get out of that situation. So first thing is, even if you're a fresher or someone at a very early stage of your career, do not completely rely on AI. First thing is, you should definitely use it, but over reliance on anything is not that good, right? So you should know how things work manually first, then start using AI. And AI, do not be afraid of using AI by saying that, oh, if I start using AI, I will completely get relied on it. It depends on you, right? You have to find a balance between things. If you do not use it, then someone using it might replace you. They might, go ahead and be twice as productive as you are right now, and then people might think, hey, this guy is slow. So do not be that guy. Use it, but do not lose touch with your own basics. Always keep your basics handy, then start using AI in order to become more productive, shift things faster. And in order to uh, be more efficient with AI, you should not just focus on one toolkit. Okay, hey, I know Claude, I'm just going to stick with it. I'm not going to learn anything new. Do not do that, because AI world is evolving a lot faster than anything else, right? First it was just like a Google, then then MCP servers came into picture, then it acted like a tool which can access things. Now it's completely agentic. Then there is a flow-based agentic stuff where you can, build flows using agents. You can chain multiple agents to do XYZ stuff and make it completely automated. So that is where your human intuition will come into picture, and you will be able to do that when you continue to learn, right? So I feel that is very
Yes.
important right now.
Yes, Dipesh. I think, yeah, that sets the perfect context for us to introduce Simplilearn's AI-powered full stack developer program. As you mentioned, about learning and having, like, foundational, a strong foundation of knowing multiple tools and multiple frameworks. So, in alignment with what you said, what we recommend as a pathway to become an AI-powered full stack developer is our program, which is delivered in collaboration with Microsoft Azure. It is a live online interactive program which spans for 9 months, but requires only about 10 hours of your time a week. You will have the major Microsoft advantage with classes delivered by industry experts. There's a very practical learning approach, like you already saw as part of this webinar. You will be working on more than 6 projects. You can build a portfolio, and you would get to improve your coding skills as well. So let's very quickly dive into the learning path for becoming a full stack developer. First, we'll start with the foundations of front-end development. This is where you will learn the basics every developer needs to know to create user-friendly interfaces. Next, we have the GenAI fundamentals for developers. This module will introduce you to the world of AI and how it can transform your development process. Then you learn about designing a dynamic front end with React. For those of you who might not be aware, React is a library for building user interfaces. So, moving on, you will discover how to harness GenAI from design to code optimization. This is a module where you learn how to utilize different AI tools to streamline your coding process. We'll also cover designing and managing databases with MongoDB, which would be essential for handling data efficiently. After that, you will focus on developing a reliable backend with Node and Express. Again, like two fundamental technologies for server-side development. We'll also explore data structures and algorithms for solving complex programming challenges. And as you prepare for your full stack journey, we will introduce GenAI powered software testing, which is focused at enhancing the quality and efficiency of your testing process. And finally, you will put all your learning into practice with a capstone project, which is a great opportunity to showcase your new skills. And yes, talking about skills, the curriculum is designed to ensure that you gain hands-on experience in both front-end and back-end development. Unique feature of the program is the integration of AI in software testing and optimization, portion of which is what we've been discussing in the webinar today. And by the end of the program, you will have a comprehensive skill set. You will be ready to tackle any challenge in the world of full stack development. Deepesh, just have a gentle question here. What do you think about these, tools, frameworks, platforms, and the skills mentioned in this slide? Like, how relevant do you think they are for, a software developer these days?
I feel they're completely relevant because these things you will require in any stage of your career. First of all, these are, in this, we are not just starting from, just how to use it. We are starting from the foundations. We are basically, when you build a house, what you do is you basically create a floor plan, and then on top of that, brick by brick, you build it, right? If you just think, yeah, I'll put a roof in the first step, then that is not how things work. So I feel the structure that is being followed in this learning path is great. So we are building from the foundations. We are setting things brick by brick. So I feel that that's a very good way to approach this.
Perfect. Thank you. So, for those of you who are interested, here are the program investment details. For Indian learners, the fee is 599 with monthly installments starting at just 2,418 rupees. For US learners, the fee is $1,449 with installments starting at just $125 a month. And from our audiences from other parts of the world, you can find the exact fee in your local currency on our program page, which I will be sharing in the chat box currently. Just give me a second. Okay, yeah, you can access the course page here, and you will be able to see the program details as well as download the curriculum, and see the fee in your currency. Okay, great. So with that, I'm going to launch a poll to take your interest in enrolling in the program. Even if you have any queries, if you're a little unsure, you can still click on yes. Our expert advisor will be getting in touch with you and guide you forward. So if you want to have a look at the syllabus in detail, you can scan the QR code here. It will directly take you to the page from where you can see more details about the program. Meanwhile, Deepesh, I think while we wait for people to give their answers, we can look at a couple of questions that have come our way. Right. So the first question is for AI developers, how important is the domain knowledge?
I feel domain knowledge is required nowadays a lot because, like I said, right, initially you were just, when you're a fresher or mid-level, you are not expected to have a lot of domain knowledge. You do not need to understand how a customer is going to use the product. It is definitely great if you did, but it was not one of the expectations from you. But now, having that domain knowledge and having that understanding of how what you are developing is going to get used, or how that particular software plays an important role in someone's life or in real life, plays a very important role nowadays. So I feel that having a domain knowledge is important nowadays a lot.
Okay, great. I hope that answers your question. Are there any AI solutions that integrate with monitoring platforms, such as Datadog, Dynatrace, or Splunk? or do these platforms already provide their own built-in AI agents and capabilities?
I'm not specifically sure about these platforms, but yeah, for monitoring platforms, there are many such options which are available specifically in Azure. If you look at it, so what happens is if you can develop a flow. In that flow, what you can do is you can plug in agents which are continuously going to have an access to your monitoring or for example, it has access to Grafana, it has access to logs. So it is like you are generating an AI-based agent which is capable of handling all the monitoring related tasks. So those supports are there, but for exactly for these, I'm not really sure. But yeah, for others which are very similar to these, there are.
Perfect. And yes, with we have a comment from one of our LinkedIn viewers. So with AI triggering rollbacks and drafting incident reports, what controls are in place to validate that its actions align with intended change policies?
Sorry, I did not get that. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. I'll just repeat. With AI triggering rollbacks and drafting incident reports, what controls can be in place, will need to be put in place in order to validate its actions?
So, like I said, that is where the human element is, right? So, whenever it's doing some task, it should not be, taken as as the final verdict. You have to have a human judge who is going to, judge whatever actions that it is suggesting and whatever actions that it wants to perform to validate that first th- uh, at a human level. That is where we come into picture. If we just allow whatever AI wants to do, then in that case, it can get very dangerous very soon. So yeah,
Great. Okay. We have gotten quite a lot of interest to enroll in the program, so I'm gonna end the poll now. Right, and yes, we have covered a few questions. I want to quickly, share about an upcoming webinar, that we have. We have a very interesting webinar on vibe coding that is coming. We have an AI engineer and founder, Timothy Hennies, guiding you to build your personal AI coach using vibe coding. It is a hands-on 3-hour workshop with a Q&A and troubleshooting session as well. And we will go beyond any normal demo that you might have seen before. You're guaranteed to walk away from the 3-hour workshop with an AI coach that you have built on, and a framework that you can use to build more such tools in the future. So you can scan the QR here to register. And let me just quickly share the link as well. If any of you is interested, you can visit this page and sign up for the session. It is happening on the 5th of March, which is day after tomorrow. For Indian audiences, it will be between 7 to 10 p.m. IST. And East timing will be, EST will be 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. Right. Okay. So we know many of you would be eager to know about the attendance certificate. So I'm going to quickly launch another poll where you can enter your full name. We will generate the certificate and share with you on email within the next 48 working hours. Meanwhile, I think Deepesh, we can look at a couple of other questions as well. What are the best prescribed AI tools for a beginner, and where do we where can they actually access it?
so I feel one of the best free and beginner friendly tools are like you can start using Gemini. I think most of you might be using that, right? You can start using GitHub Copilot. It is free and it's very friendly. It's as easy as chatting with someone, right? You might have been using WhatsApp and other things. As you saw, right, in the demo also when we were uh, providing context, it was as easy as providing a chat. So you can start using GitHub Copilot, you can start using Geminis. There is something called Lovable, which is there for which creates beautiful websites. So you can use that as well. There are many other free
Okay,
frameworks which are available.
perfect. Okay. Um, can you tell me where, okay, someone wants to know where you learned DSA and how you cracked your job at Microsoft. I think we should do another webinar topic on that, Deepesh, like how to crack, how to become a software engineer with Microsoft. But yeah, if you can
Sure.
quickly share your learning and your career journey, that'll be great.
Yeah, so I have been doing DSA from the beginning of my college. So before every time when I plan to switch, I do like to do a lot of DSA. What I do is I basically just open lead code and try to practice more and more questions on that. And the best way of doing lead code is that you pick up medium questions and try to solve them in a very defined period of time. If we take a question and try to solve it in 3 hours, then definitely we can solve it, but it doesn't really add any value because in an interview it's time bound. You do not have 3 hours, so you have to treat every question like it is given to you in an interview. So that helps a lot in practicing DSA and definitely learning the basics and the foundation of that particular data structure or algorithm helps a lot.
Great, perfect. We have a lot of entries that have come in for the certificate, so I'm going to end the poll. But Deepesh, if it's okay with you, we have a few more interesting questions as well, so we can take maybe 2, 3 more, spend 5 more minutes, if that's
Sure,
okay.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so how someone wants to know, how do we ensure data governance and security project wide, like such, so that files or secret properties are not exposed to LLMs?
So that is where gating comes into picture, right? When you're providing any prompt or when you're providing any context to a model, before that you have to make sure that you scrub the data properly. So what data scrubbing means is that you're not providing any personal identification, you're not providing any data which which is related to a customer which should not have been given, right? And which the customer has not authorized you to provide. So all these things will come into, so for example, let's say if you had a software system where your one service was making a call to, so for example, let's just take Gemini for example. Your service was making a call to Gemini. So before that AI-based call is made, and whatever data you are going to send, just add a middleware or something just before that, or think of it like a guard which is there, right? It's a security guard which is going to check ki, hey, you are allowed to go inside the campus or not. So it's basically like having a register and doing the entry key, hey, you are not allowed inside. So it will scrub it. It will remove that data and then send it to the model. So having that helps a lot.
Perfect. And I think the last question that we can take today is this. How do we integrate this tool Visual Studio? I think, like, this is from regarding the demo that you showed us. Um, can you share if it is just an external application we need to install? So how do we go about installing Visual Studio?
So we do not need to. Yeah, so if you're talking about GitHub Copilot and Visual Studio, then I mean we do not need to externally install it. But if you're talking about Visual Studio itself, then there is an external application called Visual Studio Code or Visual Code that you can install. So it's a Microsoft application. You can just download it. So it's free to use, and you can start using it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the session. Sorry that we're not able to take a couple of questions that have just about come in. We've already extended the session by about 10 minutes. So unfortunately, we won't be able to answer any more queries. Great. So to all the participants who have spent the last 1 hour with us, thank you so much. We hope that you'll be able to apply the learnings from this session as well as what you will get from the AI powered full stack developer program to get ahead in your career. Have a great day. Thank you. And Deepesh, of course, thanks a lot for your guidance and sharing your experience and knowledge with everyone. It's been a pleasure hosting you. Do you have any final remarks to share? Any advice for our learners?
Just the same that you should always know the basics and always provide a good prompt. Providing best
Right.
context helps a lot.
Hey, great. Know your basics. Those are the wise words that we're going to depart with. So we are wrapping up the session. If anyone has any concerns or some of the questions that we were not able to address, we will try to get back to you on email. If you have any feedback to share or have any issues, please feel free to write to us at webinars@simplilearn.net. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.